Hello and good evening. Good morning. It's late, but can't sleep. We're doing a video. We're talking about this really interesting, inexpensive, relatively inexpensive Android tablet. You're already looking at the product page, no doubt, so you already know all this information. 10-inch screen running Android 11 with a SIM card slot and so on and so forth, and all of that type of stuff. I've had it for about 10 days here, and overall it's pretty good, I guess, is what I'm gonna say. Not perfect, but considering its price point, especially if you do get a coupon, or I've seen the price vary a little bit, it's really interesting for what it is at its price point here. We'll get you a good reflected view here of my junk on the wall up there. It looks pretty nice. The fit and finish is pretty impressive on this. These buttons here are not loose. They don't rattle or feel loose. And my wife and I were actually debating whether the back of this is metal or not. And honestly, if it's not metal, it's so metallic-like that it might as well, for all intents and purposes, be metal. If this is plastic, I'm not sure what to think. It's a very convincing, if this is plastic, it's incredibly convincing in person. The feel and the texture of it. I mean, you know a cheap plastic tablet when you see one. When you plastic is usually pretty evident. This is surprisingly nice, at least nice enough to fool most people, especially from a distance. Has nice squared off edges. You have two speakers on each side and a USB-C port down here. In the corner, 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, and then your power and volume, and that's all you have on this. There is a multi-pin connector here that presumably would be for some kind of keyboard case or dock, but there is, and I emailed the seller, and there is no keyboard case or anything like that that's available for this. Now, when I first started showing you this, the screen was all perfect and beautiful. We're going to bounce around a lot between good things and bad things, pros and cons, negatives and positives, because this little device is full of them. By the time this review is done, this screen is going to be full of thumbprints, because it gets thumbprints so easily, and it's difficult to clean too, is what I've found. You know, one of the things you're not getting when you don't buy an expensive name brand device, you don't get fancy Gorilla Glass, you get whatever plain normal glass that let me unlock it here off camera. You get whatever plain normal glass that isn't Gorilla Glass. So the more that I use it and navigate around and do stuff and, you know, check out photos and things and look at that or whatever, by the time you've used it for a while, it starts getting really smudgy. It'll take a while, but usually once per day at a minimum, it needs to be cleaned, and it takes some doing to clean this compared to my regular cell phone or other tablets. Bouncing around, I thought that this device had kind of a familiar look to it per se. I'm just going to reach over and grab. This is my wife's iPad Pro. It's like a 2019 model, and it gets used a lot. I guess it's cold, so as cold, I know for sure that the iPad is made out of metal, and it's cold, whereas I don't get a cold metal vibe from this, so maybe it really is a plastic, but wow, is it a convincing good plastic. I just thought it's very interesting how they seem to be going for a pretty similar form factor with some key differences, but kind of like how the iPad has 4 speakers on each side. This has 4 speakers on each side. USB-C, USB-C, gently rounded corners. I think, you know, from a distance, this device is capable of fooling people into thinking it is from a much higher price bracket than it actually is. I think basically your friends, your colleagues, they would not really be able to easily tell whether you paid 130 or 330 for this device. It actually, you know, the bezels aren't too big on this. From a distance, it looks fairly premium. It is not premium, I wouldn't say that, but they've done all these things to try and kind of give that impression. This metal looking plastic and whatnot. Few disappointments in this area. This looks fancy. If someone was staring at you and you're holding your tablet across the classroom, across the conference room, it looks like a fancy dual lens camera. The second thing over here is not a camera lens though. This is an LED flash, and not a very good one at that. And then this is just your regular camera. The camera sticks out an incredible, like, that's like 3 millimeters at least. The camera bump here is enormous, so it won't lie flat, and it would love to get the dickens scratched out of it. That's why I put this mouse pad down here, because you have this huge bump out for this camera, which has a fake dual lens look that isn't a dual lens. And you'd say, all right, well, you need a case or something. Well, there is no case, no cases whatsoever that I can find that are made for this with a cutout for this camera. You can find some universal thing without the camera cutout that it, you know, fits in. But and then you'd ask, okay, well, the camera bump is big, but is it at least a good camera? No, no, it is not. Probably the worst thing about this tablet is its cameras. They are atrocious. They are straight out of, I mean, I had a cell phone in 2011 that had better quality cameras than what we get with this thing. Where are our settings here? I'll try and find that. Here we go. So get a look at this. Your back camera, well, the photo is what it is, but the video is what's really telling, because megapixels don't seem to mean much to people anymore. Back camera, here's your options. It only goes up to 720p. Your rear camera, this big bump out fancy looking thing back here, is a 720p. You can't even, for the price of this thing, to not have 4K video, you'd say, okay, whatever, you know, so be it. You can't even record in 1080 HD with this. The best it can do is a 720p, and it is a terrible, washed out 720p that doesn't do worth a darn in low light. The front camera is hilariously bad at 480p. This is Stone Age. I mean, this is just garbage as far as cameras go. Completely unacceptable. 480p, that's unreal low resolution for anything in today's day and age. Um, Unbelievable. You should have, at a minimum, today's minimum would be 720p on your front-facing camera and 1080p for your back-facing camera. And then, you know, hopefully they're kind of decent. Both of these cameras are grainy. They have terrible low-light performance. The cameras just are unusable. So if you... and you know, maybe it's for a bunch of us, it's probably an okay place to cut corners, because I don't use my tablet to take pictures. Some people do, but I think it's safe to argue that most people are just going to take pictures with their phone. You're not going to hold up this big slab of glass to take photos. So the fact that the back camera stinks isn't the end of the world. The front camera, you're going to have some pretty crappy video calls. You're going to be a blur to the other person, but I guess it's good enough a little bit for, I don't know. So it's a weird thing. It's like I personally expect the cameras to be better, but I also admit that I'm not going to use the cameras for anything ever. So, you know, I can look past it, but I'm still surprised. What else to talk about? It is USB-C, but I've been experimenting with that, and there is for certain no way to get any kind of display out of the USB-C port. I have a pile of different adapters like this that all go to HDMI and things, and not a one of them will get an HDMI signal out of this tablet, whereas these work with my phone, they work with my computer and the iPad over there, but you cannot get any kind of video out of this USB-C port. That's pretty typical of an inexpensive tablet, and this is the only one that I had any success with the USB ports. The USB ports on this did not work. The USB port on this one did not work. This is the only one, so it's kind of a finicky thing, but I was able to, with at least one of these that I was experimenting with, put in the receiver for like a keyboard or a mouse. And if you can, gotta turn the mouse on, and if you observe on the screen there, oh no, it's not working. It was working. A little hit and miss. Might be one of those things where you have to flip it upside down. The USB port is not... now it works, but believe me, I've tried this, and I can get the USB to work. Having to flip it is kind of, sometimes that's the adapter's fault. So there, if you can make it out, is a mouse pointer cruising around the screen. Like, there's a little bit of hope for doing some USB connectivity if you want to kind of whip up a pseudo docking station for this tablet. You can probably get a mouse and keyboard connected. That's plausible. You can find, you know, it might have to go through a few adapters, but you will never get any video out on the HDMI port of those adapters. It just doesn't support, I think it's DisplayPort alternate. And continuing on with the picky USB-C port, and I was going to, well, I'll just have to tell you about it. This is the charger and cord that it comes with. They're nice. You get a good thick cord, and it's long enough, and pretty compact, adequate little charging brick. What I've found is that charging wise, this little guy is pretty picky. Unfortunately, it won't charge with the 65 watt USB-C adapter for my laptop. I got that right here, so just like regular Lenovo 65 watt USB-C. That's what I charge my laptop with on the go, and I think, oh, it's USB-C, I only need one charger with me. Well, it depends on the one charger. At this Costco charger here, and what I keep finding with almost every charging thing that I use, this is a wireless battery charger, what I'm getting at is the USB-C port only supports some charging protocols and not all. So on all of these that I own, it will not charge from the USB-C ports, but it will charge from the USB-A ports. So it's just kind of a picky eater. I have to pay attention and make sure I take like one of these chargers with a USB-A port if I want to be able to charge the tablet, because if I just took my 65 watt Lenovo charger, it won't charge this. There is an LED that lights up red and green on the face next to the camera when it's charging and when it's charged, and I actually appreciate that visual cue because I can see from across the room if it's charged or not. Last note about the USB-C, if it's of interest to anybody, I have like this, those are both microphones. I have a USB-C microphone kit, and I don't, it's not going to be much interest because I already told you the cameras are junk for vlogging or doing, anything like that. So this is super moot, but I have this USB-C microphone kit, and it does recognize it, and I only know that it works with the operating system because of a third-party recording app that I installed that was able to use this. But unfortunately, I've tested this a bunch, and if you use the camera app, the stock camera app that comes with this, and you record video and you think it's going to use this microphone, it will not, and there's no option, there's no settings, there's no way to get it to use an external microphone. So unless you can find a different camera app that works with these cameras and supports external USB audio like that, you're not going to be able to use anything like this. So it doesn't really matter when the cameras are that bad. I guess if you're doing audio only, I did get a audio app to work with the USB-C lapel microphone. So if you're just doing voice, maybe, or if you really don't care about the resolution of your videos, throw out a quick recommendation that this does not come with it, but if you pick up a cheap stylus, it helps keep the fingerprints down for longer. Let me check my notes here. Oh, I know what we haven't touched on yet. Way on the opposite end of the spectrum of having the world's most garbage cameras, this is an LTE enabled tablet. This has actual a SIM card slot, and it works, asterisk. And I'll tell you about some of the limitations that I found there. You can see up here, it says, I don't know if you can see that actually, hologram T-Mobile. So hologram is the brand of SIM card that I had to actually try out, and that should open, shouldn't it? And then T-Mobile is the actual network that hologram is selling me the data through. So does it show in here? Go back, or sorry, find my way into my settings, network and internet, mobile network. Oh, this is where I just was. Tell me anything about the network. So I have a SIM card in this tablet, and it's working. on the T-Mobile network through Hologram, a company that is a reseller. It does actually show in the corner there, if you can make that out. Sorry, it's not focusing. 4G. So I have a SIM card in. I have indicated 4G connection on a T-Mobile resold network. Great news, right? Bad news for anybody else, including me, because my actual cell phone is with Verizon, and I did some checking with the IMEI number and some research, and this tablet will not work on the Verizon network. I reached out to Verizon support and said, hey, I have this tablet with this IMEI. It says it won't work, and they looked it up and they said, yep, it is not compatible. I said, okay, and I went to AT&T's website and dug around until I found a spot to check the IMEI number on there, and AT&T said, nope. So this is a no-go with Verizon. This is a no-go with AT&T, but it does work on T-Mobile or a third-party pay-as-you-go or prepaid type of thing that uses T-Mobile's network. I didn't check on, is Sprint even still a thing? I don't know. Just be aware, it is a 4G LTE laptop, but not laptop, tablet, sorry, but it does not work on all networks, and it doesn't work on two of the biggest ones, Verizon and AT&T. So be aware of that. But if you need to have a little bit of data on it, I can say that so far, Hologram IO, that works fine. So if you find some prepaid service that you're happy with the price, and you know, it won't be sharing off of your main phone plan maybe, but it does have working data. So that's a surprisingly nice feature for a tablet in this price point. Let me touch on some other things. Storage space, as you know, not great. Docking port, we touched on that there is no cases, there's no keyboards, there's no docking stations. We mentioned how the USB-C port is nice, but not all the chargers work. In addition to the SIM card slot, there is an SD card slot, so you can at least expand from that minimalistic 64 gigabytes. The screen resolution. Resolution is pretty good on this, but I personally, and I'm in my 30s, so it's a little different for everybody else. I was not happy with the screen until I went into some developer options that you have to enable, and I turned the DPI way up on this tablet. I think I went up to like 750. It's kind of buried in the settings, so hang on, these are all my... move my personal pictures out of the way and just pull up a screenshot. Well, maybe we will go through settings. We're already making the world's longest video, so... system... I believe... advanced. So developer options is a thing that isn't turned on by default, but you can Google that. And somewhere down in here is a setting for... it's not very well labeled. It's a setting called smallest width, which makes no sense, but you can see that I have it set to 758. And let me go into my screenshots here, because I know I took a screenshot. It was something like 500 some odd. Everything on the screen was comically, clownishly huge to my eyes. My eyesight's still good. I don't need huge stuff. I want to see a lot of stuff on my screen. This screen has enough resolution to show stuff kind of like a desktop, like a normal laptop or computer screen, and I wanted to use that, so I cranked up the DPI and changed font sizes and everything else until I could really get a nice group of stuff and not have that squished mobile view. So when you first unbox it, you're not gonna you're gonna see everything. Like, this text will be 4 times bigger and these icons will be 4 times bigger. You can see I'm not done with this process yet because now there's a huge gap between every icon, so I gotta go into those settings, and you can shrink these icons up in here. It's a high resolution, well, okay, it's not a high resolution screen. It's a reasonably good resolution screen at its price point, but they were not using it well out of the box. So I would definitely recommend changing your DPI and font size and a number of things if your eyesight will allow you to take advantage of that, because everything is perfectly clear and readable. No issues at 750 DPI. I'm happy with it personally. Oh goodness, is there anything else that we haven't touched on yet? I think we're getting there. I like this. I've been using it every day since I got it, warts and all. It's not perfect, but I wanted an inexpensive device that I wouldn't be afraid if it got a little bit banged up or a little bit scratched up, or, you know, low risk if it was stolen. Honestly, the fit and finish is pretty good on it, and it looks like a much more expensive device than it is. The 4G option, even though it only works on like one network that I know of, T-Mobile, and neither of the other major ones in the United States, it does have a mobile data option, so you gotta appreciate that for what it is. Screen brightness is reasonably good. Pretty decent. Worthless little LED flash for the camera. Battery life's good. I've been using this thing a lot. I do a lot of setup and stuff, and I go all day, and then I do need to charge it at the end of the day, but I get great battery life out of this so far. It's perfectly adequate for browsing, shopping on Amazon, watching videos on YouTube, and checking my email and lightweight tasks, all kinds of basic stuff like that. I'm really pretty pleased with it, especially at the current price point as of today. It makes for a surprisingly good value. There's just some pitfalls you have to be aware of and look out for, like, don't plan to use the cameras for anything special. Don't plan to hook it up to a TV unless you're doing like a wireless cast, that would work, but a wired connection to a TV is not going to be a thing. Won't work on Verizon, won't work on AT&T. There's all these little catches and gotchas, but I'm still pretty impressed by this. At $250, I'd be a lot less impressed, but for where they have it priced at, I appreciate this device for what it is, and I understand what it isn't. So if that matches up with your needs for a Android tablet, I'd say this one could fit the bill. I could recommend this to people as long as they understand what they're getting, and that it'll will or won't meet specific needs maybe that they have. So that's enough rambling. We'll cut that video for there, and have a good night.